Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Part 143 based on novel. So let's start. In this moment, Hui Yuhao felt as if the icy spring water around him had already reached absolute zero. The extremely low temperatures were starting to make his body go numb. However, the soul power within his body was greedily absorbing that extreme chill. Whoosh, Hui Yuhao's body suddenly lightened, and he suddenly felt the pressure around him plummet as he fell into a small cave. Everything was completely dark inside the cave, but there wasn't any spring water at all. Hui Yuhao almost subconsciously opened his mouth to breathe. A wave of terrifying and chilly air followed his breath into his body. In that moment, Hui Yuhao felt as if everything, including his own spirit, had frozen. His entire body went stiff as he just stood there, motionless. Hui Yuhao thought that he had a very deep understanding of the element of ice, but only in this moment did he truly understand that everything that he knew was insufficient. At least, he had never believed that ice could cause even spirits to freeze. Was this the true element of ice? His eye of destiny opened on his forehead. The deep, profound, and tranquil vertical eye opened as the soul core in his body rotated hysterically. Tremendous spiritual power rippled outward and forcefully helped Hui Yuhao's spirit struggle out from the icy rigidness. Bluish-green light glowed in front of him at the same time. The Ice Empress hovered in front of him quietly, and Hui Yuhao could finally see everything around him with clarity. He was inside a very small cave. It was only about 10 square meters, and about 1.5 meters high. Hui Yuhao had to come inside with his body bent down. There were strange pillars of ice inside the cave. There were more than 10 of various sizes, some big and some small, and they were all intertwined with each other. Every pillar was white, and they were still white and clean even when the Ice Empress bluish-green light shone on them. Liquid seemed to flow within those white, icy pillars. The frightening chill came from these icy pillars. The extreme cold here was different from that contained inside the divine ice crystals. The cold here couldn't be contained, and even the air seemed to be sticky. The elements of ice were so thick here that even Hui Yuhao couldn't absorb them, and only the Ice Empress, the Snow Empress, the Star Anise or other spirits like them wouldn't be too affected in such an environment. That wasn't because they were in spiritual form, but because their original bodies were formed from ultimate ice. We are here. This is the manifold mysterious ice essence. The Ice Empress spoke with much sorrow. The manifold mysterious ice essence. Hui Yuhao's spirits were rekindled when he heard those words. Hui Yuhao couldn't move at all, and his entire body seemed like it was frozen. However, with his soul core helping him, his thoughts and spirit were very normal. The Ice Empress said, "Don't worry, Yuhao. You're just not used to the extreme cold in this place. The area here is too small, and there is too much manifold mysterious ice essence, and that's the reason why the temperature is so low. The temperature here is about 5 degrees from absolute zero. Even though these 5 degrees are still calamities, this is the lowest temperature I have ever come across." Thoughts spun in Hui Yuhao's head as he turned to the Ice Empress and asked, "Does that mean our ultimate ice isn't absolute zero?" The Ice Empress shook her head and said, "Of course not. Temperatures can be considered at the extremes when they are 150 degrees below zero. That is already a range forbidden to life. However, that threshold is still quite far from absolute zero. But this place is different. This place is truly a place with a temperature close to absolute zero. There isn't as much manifold mysterious ice essence as the place that the Skydream ice worm discovered by chance, but the space here is small, and the cold air cannot be released outside. The cold air has been accumulating and trapped here. Therefore, low temperatures such as this are few and far between even in our lives. Don't do anything now, just stay here quietly, and it will be beneficial for you. We will absorb the manifold mysterious ice essence to reduce the icy air's thickness, and then you can slowly adapt. Just make sure that your mind remains clear." "All right," Hui Yuhao said nothing more. He understood what the Ice Empress was saying, that he had to feel and experience more of a place like this that hardly ever occurred in the world, if at all. It would be very beneficial for his cultivation with ultimate ice. Hui Yuhao concentrated his spiritual power and began to quietly feel everything around him. Even though his body was frozen, there was an icy blue layer around his body that was protecting him. Hui Yuhao's martial soul had ultimate ice, and he couldn't be frozen to death. The only problem was that the chilly air here was too strong, and he didn't know how to deal with it yet. Light flickered as the Sky Dream Ice Worm emerged from Hui Yuhao's body. Even though the Sky Dream Ice Worm didn't originally have ultimate ice, he was undoubtedly one of the most experienced in dealing with manifold mysterious ice essence. What do you plan to do? The Sky Dream Ice Worm asked the Ice Empress. Their consciousnesses were the most intact amongst Hui Yuhao's 4 spirits. The star anise was similar, but it was a plant-type soul beast, and it only had 100,000 years of cultivation, so its intelligence was relatively lower. The Snow Empress memories were sealed after she became Hui Yuhao's spirit, so she couldn't help them make a decision. The Ice Empress lowered her voice and said, "We are without our bodies. However, the manifold mysterious ice essence is the purest and most valuable treasure for our elements of ice. We may be able to recreate our bodies if we use this ice essence as materials and absorb them through our origin energy. These bodies will still be based on energy, but if our fusion is to be successful, we will be able to leave Yuhao for a certain distance in the future and still be able to live. At the same time, if anything happens to Yuhao, we can still." She paused here and glanced at Hui Yuhao. Hui Yuhao passed his message with his thoughts. "Can what?" The Ice Empress took a deep breath and spoke with radiating eyes that were trained on him. "We can leave you, and we can find another person who can help us attain eternity. With the manifold mysterious ice essence, our spiritual origins can possess a vessel that isn't so easily dissipated." Hui Yuhao said, "That's great. That is a good thing. Hurry up and absorb it." The Sky Dream Ice Worm's eyes became a lot deeper than before. "That's not good." The Ice Empress stared at him coldly and said, "What's not good?" The Sky Dream Ice Worm frowned. "I can understand what you are feeling. However, since we have chosen to follow Yuhao from the beginning, we have to give our entire hearts and souls. Everyone has been through life and death struggles so many times, have you forgotten?" The Ice Empress paused momentarily and said, "I just wish to use the manifold mysterious ice essence to strengthen my origin so that my spiritual origin can rely on something." "What's wrong with that?" The Sky Dream Ice Worm shook his head. "No, that's not all you are thinking of. I understand that you want to try to recreate your physical body with all this manifold mysterious ice essence. I can tell you 2 things. First, you can't possibly do that. This ice essence is a very valuable ice-type treasure, but there isn't enough here for you to recreate your physical body. How can you recreate your body without any dependence? Secondly, even if you manage to do that, you will no longer be with us. I understand how you feel about seeing all this manifold mysterious ice essence, but I have to stop you. This is not our path. Have you not seen hope in Yuhao? Since we already have hope, why do you have to take this risk?" The Ice Empress retorted defiantly, "I didn't think of hurting him. I just—" The Sky Dream Ice Worm's voice suddenly became very severe. "Shut up. I know you never wished to harm him, but why didn't you tell him that he would have to sustain such enormous pressure in the process of coming in? You didn't want him to stop you after coming here. Absorbing the manifold mysterious ice essence to strengthen your own body is all right, but I'm afraid that your mentality will become unstable. Don't take the wrong path." The Ice Empress fell silent. Even though she didn't want to admit it, she understood that the Sky Dream Ice Worm was telling the truth. The manifold mysterious ice essence had caused a ripple in her heart that had always been calm, and she felt as if she had seen hope. She had never fused with a treasure such as this before, but she held onto that tiny thread of hope, that she could use it to try and recreate her physical body. She did see hope by following Hui Yuhao, but she craved freedom more. "Brother Sky Dream," Hui Yuhao called out. The Sky Dream Ice Worm turned around and looked at Hui Yuhao with an apologetic look on his face. "I'm sorry, Yuhao. She didn't do it intentionally. The manifold mysterious ice essence is unimaginably alluring to any ice-type soul beast. I understand. I don't blame her," Hui Yuhao continued. "I understand the value of freedom. Brother Sky Dream, I called you because I wanted to ask if I can truly help you guys recreate your physical bodies by leveraging the manifold mysterious ice essence, or rather, by using it as the main material. If that's possible, I am willing to help you. Really. I don't mind even if you absorb every single inch of the ice essence here. The Sky Dream Iceworm frowned even more tightly. What do you mean, Yu Hao? Yu Hao smiled and said, Brother Sky Dream, Ice Empress, I've always known that you guys have high expectations and hopes on me, and this expectation has been an enormous burden for me. If you guys can recreate your physical bodies, then this burden will naturally disappear. I can do some things that I wish to do with a lightened heart. You guys don't have to worry about anything. My spirit eyes have grown, and even if the Ice Empress leaves me and takes my second martial soul, that's not a big deal. I am very clear about how valuable freedom is. Therefore, if you have a solution to this, Brother Skydream, please help the Ice Empress and yourself. There will be no problem if the Snow Empress can awaken because of this. The original rationale of becoming my spirits was to live better lives. Since you guys have this opportunity, why are you giving it up? The Skydream Iceworm's knotted eyebrows relaxed, but his expression became one of astonishment. He could tell that Yu Hao's words were very sincere, and there wasn't a single trace of sarcasm. The Ice Empress stared at Yu Hao with a blank look on her face, and she seemed a little lost. Yu Hao heaved a faint sigh and said, I have always had 3 wishes. My first wish is to avenge my mother, and for everybody who hurt her to pay. This is my duty as a son. My second wish is to find Dora again so that we can be together, and that is for my own happiness. My third wish is to help you guys live on, and in a better life. You guys are the reason why I have achieved everything that I have, and to me, you are both teachers and friends. The only responsibility that remains after I have completed these 3 wishes will be to fight for Shrek and the Tang sect. I truly wish to see my 3 wishes fulfilled. Therefore, Brother Skydream, every one of you can leave if you are able to. I will not be upset at all. I only wish that we can still be friends afterwards. The Skydream Iceworm's voice became a little lower. But you know that if we leave you, perhaps what we have fused with you will remain in your body, but the Ice Empress, the Snow Empress, and I will take with us all the soul skills that we have bestowed upon you. Even the soul bone that the Ice Empress has given you will disappear. Your second martial soul will likely crumble, and your Spirit Eye's 4th soul skill will vanish with me. Even though you are a soul sage, your strength will very likely plummet. Yu Hao chuckled. I have considered all of that. That's not a problem, because I am not worried about all that as long as I can fulfill my 3 wishes. Brother Skydream, you don't have to worry for me. I am no longer the same me as I was back then. With your help, at the very least, I am still a soul sage. Furthermore, I already have my soul core. I trust that I can regain my prowess with my own abilities. Even if I only have spirit eyes, I am still quite powerful. Don't worry. The Skydream Iceworm sighed and turned around to look at the Ice Empress. Have you heard him? The Ice Empress nodded silently. The Skydream Iceworm said plainly, so what is your decision? The Ice Empress didn't answer directly. Instead, she asked the Skydream Iceworm a question. If I choose to leave, then what about you? Will you leave with me? The Skydream Iceworm shook his head almost without hesitation as he said decisively, no, I won't. The Ice Empress frowned. But you've said before that you like me. Why aren't you willing to be with me? The Skydream Iceworm replied plainly, yes, I like you. No, I should say that I love you. You are one of the most important components of my life. However, Yu Hao is the same. Yes, it was because of me that Yu Hao's strength has risen so quickly. However, on the other hand, I would probably no longer exist if I hadn't run into him. We have always been relying on each other for survival and helping each other, and only then have we reached where we are today. Therefore, no matter what, whether Yu Hao will touch that level successfully in the future, I will accompany him on his path. I will always be by his side whether he is successful or not. I am his companion, and I am also his elder brother. Just as you are, he has long become one of the most important parts of my life. Yu Hao is right, he has a tremendous burden on his shoulders because of us. I trust that everything that he has said is sincere. Our departure for him might be a kind of liberation, but I will not leave, no matter what the future holds for us. I will stand with my brother. The Ice Empress expression turned a little bitter. What about me? We both hold important places in your heart. Why won't you choose to be with me? The Sky Dream Iceworm sighed and said, how I wish I could be with you. I will wish the same in the future. However, I cannot follow you if you choose to leave. I will look for you only after I accompany you how to finish the last days of his journey. If you are still alive, then I will come to you to protect you and to accompany you. If you are no longer there, then I will find you in another world. Even though I am very afraid of death, I have to admit that I have been alive long enough. Love and friendship cannot be had at the same time. If your choice is right, and Yu Hao's choice is not right, then I will choose you. But now, you should understand what my choice is. Humph! The Ice Empress grunted angrily. You wait. The Sky Dream Iceworm revealed a pained smile. Perhaps this wait will bring me agony for the rest of my life. The Ice Empress stared at him coldly and said, yes, it will give you pain for the rest of your life. She turned and floated towards Yu Hao as she spoke. The Sky Dream Iceworm felt his heart skip a beat as he hurriedly followed her. The Snow Empress had lost her memory, and she only recognized Yu Hao. She immediately flew next to Yu Hao as she stared at the Ice Empress warily. The Ice Empress smiled, she stared at Yu Hao, and her smile was very happy. You are all wrong. I do want to absorb this manifold mysterious ice essence, and I have to admit that greedy thoughts did appear in my head when I saw it. I believe that is something that any ice-type soul beast cannot avoid. However, that avarice is insufficient to sway my faith. So what if I recreate my physical body? In Di Qian's life, he has cultivated for more than 800,000 years with the help of the Lake of Life, and even then, he doesn't have a single chance of touching the God Realm. The God Realm has always been very harsh and strict towards us soul beasts. However, I have truly seen hope in Yu Hao. The call from the God Realm and the formation of his soul core proves that my judgment wasn't false all those years ago. Since that's the case, why would I give up my roots to chase something so trivial? The Sky Dream Iceworm stared at her with widened eyes and slack jaw. You're not recreating your physical body anymore. The Ice Empress rolled her eyes and said, when did I say that I wish to do that? The Sky Dream Iceworm stammered, but you said that if something happens to him, you can choose another host. The Ice Empress replied, I did say that. But I was just speaking casually. Why are you so serious? Do you think I don't know how illusory recreating my physical body is? You are too tensed up. Yes, Yu Hao did sustain enormous pressure coming in here, but that pressure was within my control. If I sensed that he had reached the limits of what he could bear, I would have immediately helped him relieve that pressure. The Ice Empress green light suddenly flourished as she spoke, and the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion's original form glowed behind Yu Hao's back. The chill that had been assaulting him from the beginning to the end, that had frozen him over instantly, disappeared as Yu Hao regained his senses. How can he improve without pressure? Did he not do the same to Qiu? Don't you know how difficult it is to give Yu Hao pressure? This place is as suitable as it gets. This experience will be very beneficial for him when he absorbs the manifold mysterious ice essence later. However, I have to absorb at least half of the manifold mysterious ice essence here. The Ice Empress was very serious. I have never considered recreating my physical body, or to change hosts in the future. To be honest, I don't think anybody can be better than Yu Hao, and I was just commenting casually. However, such a thing is possible, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As for why I have to absorb large amounts of manifold mysterious ice essence to consolidate and strengthen my origins, the reason is simple. Why? The Sky Dream Iceworm asked. The Ice Empress rolled her eyes and said, you're such an idiot. You had nothing better to do, so you decided to help Yu Hao form his soul core with only 7 soul rings. This will allow his cultivation to increase more quickly, but have you considered that forming a second soul core is a challenge for an ultimate Dolor? He'll probably need more than 30, or even 50 years. The manifold mysterious ice essence is your great luck. The amount that he can absorb is limited, while my absorption is equivalent to his martial soul absorbing more. All this will be unleashed when he breaks through in the future, and when he is forming his second soul core. I will infuse my origin power into his body so that he has a chance at success. The Sky Dream Ice Worm's jaws were still agape. Very wise. The Ice Empress shot him a disdainful glance and said, "Of course I am wise, unlike you, you're such an idiot. You hadn't even clarified anything before you came running to express your loyalty. Please, continue." The Sky Dream Ice Worm gave her a sheepish look. "I was wrong, Ice Empress. I have aggrieved you." The Ice Empress laughed coldly and said, "No. Do not speak of a grievance. You're so good to Yu-Hao, you guys are brothers. I am an outsider. Yu-Hao is the generous one, what about you? You are projecting your own despicable thoughts to judge honest people. Leave me alone next time." "I was wrong, Ice Empress. Isn't it enough that I have apologized? I will do whatever you wish me to, my lady. I was wrong, I truly understand that I was wrong now." The Sky Dream Ice Worm finally understood what the Ice Empress meant about giving him pain for the rest of his life. He finally felt it deep in his bones. Hui Yu-Hao turned toward the Ice Empress with a forced laugh. "This is all just a misunderstanding, geez. I was also wrong. Everything is my fault. Don't blame Brother Sky Dream." The Sky Dream Ice Worm secretly gave Hui Yu-Hao a thumbs up. The Ice Empress chortled and said, "It's not so easy to toss us away, Yu-Hao. You will only have motivation when there's pressure. It's fine, I don't blame you. I have always treated you like a younger brother. Furthermore, your speech just now was pretty touching. Quite unlike a certain crawling bug, hair. I was wrong." Ice Empress, the Sky Dream Ice Worm hurriedly stepped forward to pull on the Ice Empress, but she shrugged him away. "That's enough, I'll deal with you later. We have to discuss this matter with the manifold mysterious ice essence. You also have to absorb some, Sky Dream, not just me. The Snow Lady and the Star Anise have to do it as well. The Snow Lady has to take more, and perhaps that will help her regain her strength. Yu-Hao can only absorb a little for now. The manifold mysterious ice essence is too effective, and if you absorb too much of it, you may very well end up in a deep slumber like the Sky Dream Ice Worm all those years ago. If that happens, you may sleep for a good 10 years. I'm sure you won't want that." The Ice Empress said, "It's a lot easier for us to absorb the manifold mysterious ice essence. We are all your spirits, and our origin will absorb some of it, while more of it will be sealed into our bodies. These energies will be useful when you attempt to form your second soul core." "All right, I'll listen to you," Hui Yu-Hao hurriedly responded. The Ice Empress continued, "Okay, then I shall begin, and the Snow Empress will go next, then Sky Dream, and the Star Anise goes last. You will take your turn when we finish." Hui Yu-Hao nodded understandingly. The Sky Dream Ice Worm stared anxiously at the Ice Empress beside her and said, "Do you need help, Ice Empress?" Scram! The Ice Empress pushed him away as she floated before a single pillar. Intense green light lit up every corner of this tiny cavern. Every single pillar of ice essence seemed to come alive under the green luster. The Ice Empress shifted as an enormous green scorpion tail glimmered into view behind her. The shiny hook stabbed ferociously into the pillar in front of her. TCH. There was a soft sound that caused the cold air within the cavern to shake. Hui Yu-Hao could clearly feel even stronger waves of cold permeate around him, but the energy undulations were also becoming stronger within all those chilly waves. However, everything happened for only an instant. Hui Yu-Hao could see in the next moment that waves of dark blue liquid swiftly flowed into the Ice Empress body through the sharp hook on her tail, and she absorbed the liquid within. The Ice Empress was Hui Yu-Hao's martial soul after all, and Hui Yu-Hao could sense something changing once she began to absorb it. The rigid soul power within his body began to circulate once more. Furthermore, his soul power began to strengthen as the pure elements of ice immersed into his body. The Ice Empress stretched out her arms to both sides, and they transformed into two enormous pincers that waved rhythmically in the air as they carried bluish-green hues. The green lights intertwined and curved through one another in midair as strange bluish-green runes and glyphs took shape one after another behind her before they imprinted on her body. Hui Yuhao's soul power was increasing at a slower rate. However, the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion's pattern was vividly imprinted behind his back. That wasn't all, the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion skeleton shone lustrously. The Ice Empress origin resided within these bones. The Ice Empress was starting to fuse with and seal away the manifold mysterious ice essence, and that essence was naturally sealed into her skeleton. The process was very quick. 15 minutes passed as the first pillar dimmed, and the liquid that was so lively and full of vitality completely disappeared. The pillar of ice essence shattered with a light pop and transformed into a mass of icy dust. The Ice Empress body evidently became much more material after fusing with this pillar. Even though it still couldn't compare to her real body, Hui Yuhao could tell that she was a lot more lively than before. 2 pincers stretched out from her sides, and each clamped down on a pillar as she continued to absorb more. The Sky Dream Ice Worm flew quietly behind the Ice Empress. Nobody was as experienced as he was in absorbing the manifold mysterious ice essence, and back when he had first absorbed it, he went into a deep slumber for a long time because there was too much energy inside the ice essence, even after absorbing but a little bit. He could absorb more as he became stronger over time, and he managed to accumulate his tremendous ice-type origin energy after 1,000,000 years. Unfortunately, those energies were gifted to someone else when he arrived at the Great Star Doe Forest. He wasn't adept in battle, and so he became a source of great nutrition to the beast god, Di Qian, and a bunch of the Great Star Doe Forest's savage beasts. Just as the Ice Empress had said, if she were the one who had absorbed all that manifold mysterious ice essence back then, it was hard to say who the #1 soul beast in the world would be. The Sky Dream Ice Worm protected the Ice Empress from behind, so that if she absorbed too much, he could help her draw some away. However, the Ice Empress was very powerful. She already had 400,000 years of cultivation before fusing with Hui Yuhao. Even though the manifold mysterious ice essence was very potent, her origin power was much stronger than the Sky Dream Ice Worms back then. She absorbed one pillar after another. Her body became increasingly material, as if she were a real human. Hui Yuhao could feel that the Ice Empress consciousness and the tremendous power contained within the manifold mysterious ice essence gradually caused her to take a form that was completely formed with ice energy. Just as the Ice Empress had said, she could be far away from Hui Yuhao for a period of time in such a state without running into any problems. This was an improvement in her intrinsic qualities. She would possess her own fighting strength even without relying on Hui Yuhao. Of course, she was still quite far away from how she was a long time ago. The Ice Empress only began to slow down when she had absorbed 7 pillars of ice essence. Some of those energies integrated with her origin, while she began to seal the others into her origin. She was starting to exert a lot of effort after the 7th one. She could still absorb the 8th one on her own, but she couldn't absorb 2 at the same time, while the cavern became a little warmer after those pillars disappeared. The manifold mysterious ice essence wasn't so unbearable anymore. The 9th one. Thick icy bluish-green mist began to appear around the Ice Empress when she absorbed her 9th one. The icy mist would transform into drops of liquid in the air and plop to the ground. Her body was starting to tremble, and it was clear that she was reaching her limit. It was quite difficult to digest the manifold mysterious ice essence. She could only store that much with her origin power. The Ice Empress struggled to finish absorbing her 9th pillar. She took a deep breath as she glided away. Green light flickered on her body, and flourishing ice-type origin energy undulations gave everyone a feeling as if she had restored herself to her peak strength. I'm good. Yuhao, let the Snow Empress absorb some. The Ice Empress heaved a long exhale as she floated next to Hui Yuhao. She had to absorb some ice essence to fuse with her consciousness, otherwise, she could explode at any moment, because she had absorbed too much energy. Hui Yuhao communicated with the Snow Lady as she flew into the air and came before the ice essence. The Snow Lady was a lot more direct than the Snow Empress. She opened her palms and grabbed a pillar with each one, and everyone could see her pulling circles of blue light into her body before they merged with her. The Snow Empress was in a different state than the Ice Empress. The Ice Empress was Hui Yuhao's martial soul, and she had only retained her consciousness. The Snow Empress was possibly the strongest spirit in the continent. Even though she didn't have soul bones to rely on, her consciousness and soul power had merged to become a spirit so that she could survive. She was much more material than the Ice Empress' pure consciousness, and she began to display strength superior to the Ice Empress once she started to absorb the manifold mysterious ice essence. The Snow Empress finished absorbing 2 pillars in less than 5 minutes. What was even more surprising was that her body, which was already relatively material, seemed to be growing. She had looked like a 13 or 14-year-old teenager before this, but now she seemed to grow a year older after absorbing the 2 pillars. She grew a little taller, and her frame seemed to become more developed. Dense ice elements spiraled around her, as if they had found an owner that they loved, and they were radiating excitement. 2 pillars, and then another 2. The Snow Empress was absorbing the manifold mysterious ice essence at a speed that was twice as fast as the Ice Empress, and was growing continuously amidst it all. 15, 16, 17, 18, she gradually grew up from a small girl. Her body became long and slender as her chest grew larger, while her long legs could be faintly seen within her white dress. The Snow Empress' stunning features became increasingly crisp and cold. She slowly left her look as the Snow Lady behind and transformed continuously into the Snow Empress. A confused look gradually appeared in her clear dark blue eyes, before that confusion turned into bewilderment, and her eyes slowly became clear once more. The pillars of manifold mysterious ice essence disappeared continuously amidst her transformation. 13 pillars. She finally paused when she absorbed her 13th pillar. She stopped growing when she reached the state of a 20-year-old lady, but the aura of ultimate ice emanating from her body was extremely strong. Her white dress now had snow-white ribbons on it, 6 of them, and every ribbon wrapped around her in different ways that complemented her slender and exceedingly beautiful body. Huo could clearly feel that she was different, but as for how different she had become, there seemed to be something else besides her increased strength. The Snow Empress raised her hands once more. Does she still want to absorb more? Huo stared at her in astonishment. However, the Snow Empress didn't grab any pillars with her hands this time. Instead, she waved her hands in front of her. She first made the shape of an arch before her 10 slender fingers began to waltz in midair. Dark blue patterns rippled in the air, and they transformed continuously as they congregated to form strange runes that resembled snowflakes. The Ice Empress had her eyes closed while she absorbed the origin energy of heaven and earth, but her eyes suddenly burst open because of these glyphs. She stared in shock at the Snow Empress in front of her, and when she saw the glyphs that resembled snowflakes appear one after another in front of her, her eyes widened in excitement as tears welled up in her eyes. The Snow Empress took a good 15 minutes to draw and create those frosty runes, and in the end, a total of 7 snowflakes hovered in front of her. Go! The Snow Empress growled as the 7 snowflakes floated forward and each landed on a single pillar of ice essence. This video will end here.